so many military in and they leave. So he said, if we give a good foundation and everybody, is comfortable and where they are, when they leave here, then they take it with them. Yeah. So.
I'll have you say that. Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, Suzanne, as we ask questions, if no matter who asks the question, if you could just kind of look in this, you don't have to look at the camera,
right.
but just at me or
you or that tree back there. Or
yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well.
But so we're rolling. So why don't you just start by telling us how you got involved in Ascension?
Oh my!
When you first came, but also the ministries that you became involved in.
Well, I came from the very beginning. Father French went to elementary and high school with my brother, as I went to we all went to the same elementary school, so I had known him forever. His mother and my mother were both Veronicas at Holy Trinity Parish in Ocean View. So we were young newlyweds and going to St. Gregory's. And it was sort of like easy to go, maybe not easy to go, whatever. And one day my mother called me and she said, "Oh, I've got wonderful news." She said, Veronica French just called me, and Bobby is getting a parish in Kempsville, starting a new parish. So I went, great. So we were on board right away. It was new. It was something to really enliven our lives and something to look forward to and be the beginning of. So we were on board right away. And we started out in homes. He rented a house in Larkspur. And eventually they bought the house here and then the second house. But in the beginning, he was in Larkspur. And so he'd have home masses there and then home masses in our homes and yards and whatever. And then we graduated to Kempsville Elementary cafeteria. And so we would have liturgies there. And eventually, where the Rock Church is now was the Kempsville Presbyterian Church. Their land was there, and the Rock Church had bought the Presbyterian. They switched properties. But before that ever happened, we met in the Kempsville Presbyterian Church right next to Kempsville Elementary. Then on to Kempsville Junior High's cafeteria. So when we were in the early stages, Sister Eileen came on as the minister of religious ed, and she and I clicked right away. And so I became her secretary, and then she began a Christian formation committee because we had to have a religious ed program because we had I think 400 and some kids in the parish in the beginning with no building. And she's still living. She's in her 90s. She's originally from Silver Springs, Maryland. Joined her community, which is Sisters of Holy Names of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, which is out of Albany. But they had schools in Florida, in the Tampa area, and she'd been a principal down there. And she just had taught for so long, she wanted something new. And Richmond and Ascension were a new parish and a Vatican II parish. And that's what caught her eye as far as, well, she wanted to change in life because she had been teaching and been a principal and all that. So somehow, I don't know how Father French found her, but fortunately he did. I think I really owe who I am today, fortunately from Father French and Sister Eileen. And so...
in what way? Explain that a little more.
Well, because just the way they were, the people they were, the way they guided us in our faith development as young adults. We were a very young parish, and they brought in some of the best adult education leaders. We had a Father Gorman Sullivan that came from Chicago, and also, what was the other fellow's? A doctor. He was from Loyola, and he was taught at Mundelein. Richard... I can't think of it right hand, but anyhow, they brought in good adult education speakers, and just the way the liturgy was celebrated, it was uplifting, it was positive, it was just a good experience all around, and very caring, And they sort of did it by just involving everybody. And as you were talking about Carol Bakovac saying Father French, was a very social person. He wanted everybody, he felt like if everybody came together in a social group, then it would enrich our faith formation. And so I became part of Sister Eileen's Christian Formation Committee as I was her secretary. And then I taught third grade religious ed in my home. And just all sort of grew from there.
Tell us about some of those faith formation activities that Sister Eileen was in charge of that you helped with.
Well, in training the teachers, because the teachers were parents that opened their homes to host them. And we had, oh gosh, I couldn't tell you how many. If you think of every neighborhood that Ascension touches, Carol Ann Farms, Arrowhead, Huntington, Ridgely, out down Princess Anne Road, Bellamy Manor, Fairfield, everywhere. We had classes from 1st to 10th grade in those homes. And so there was a lot of teachers too. And at that time, women were not working as much as they are today. So, and some of them were the fathers that were teaching. Some of the adult ed, some of the men were teaching, and we had a wonderful couple, the Darren, Susan and Skip Darren, that taught. So anyhow, all those teachers really had to be formed. So there were multiple classes that she would lead. We had a format. We had a curriculum that we followed. And so we were forever, having to organize classes and work with the parents in preparation for them to be teachers for the children.
So how the spirit and the mission that started this parish 50 years ago, a lot of people have talked about that. And,
well, our mission is still the same as it was.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. How do you see that reflected today in the life and the ministry here
at Ascension? I think it's continued amazingly. I was talking to somebody not long ago, and I said, we need our priests. We love our priests that we have. But I said, the continuation of the spirit of the lay people that began with Father French has just continued. And very uplifting and happy to see. I was 80 in April. So I've seen it from the very beginning, for like my 40s, and was on the ground level. So to see it continue, I'm not as active today as I was, but I think the spirit is still as alive, and it's wonderful to see the willingness of you ladies and the rest of the parish leaders who are continuing in that same spirit. I'm sure Father French is smiling down on you all and what you're doing.
Wonderful. What did I know?
Well, tell us what you said about it being a military parish and as a training ground.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was a clever guy. And there were some people he could offend. I mean, none of us are perfect. But overall, he was an amazing guy. And he'd tell you things just like it was, But one of the things he would always preach was, because we were such a mobile military parish. I'm a native of the area, so I left in my younger years, but I came back. Because it was a military parish, he would always, basically, I'm paraphrasing it, but he would say, we're like a training ground. Because we have so many military people in our parish, we want you to be uplifted, to soak in what he is preaching and telling us, and what we're learning by the wonderful adult ed leaders that he was bringing in. And then when they would transfer out, he would tell them, take it with you and spread it. And even one time, I think I remember him saying something like, it's like coming to the gas station. You're filling up every Sunday. And then you don't just stay and keep that within you. You take what you get every Sunday and you go out and spread it within your community and your neighborhood and your friends that you interact with every day. So, and the nice thing is there's a lot of young people that came around those days or came through those days that are very active. We had a family, the O'Haras, that I think they had like 5 children. They lived over in Kempsville Colony. And one in particular that I can remember, their son Brian, he's now out in Oklahoma. And he is still attached to Ascension emotionally. And I mean, he will post on Facebook things that he learned and remembers and still carries. And I think he's in politics. I'm not sure, but I think he's in politics in Oklahoma. And then we have Tom Iannucci, who I'm always happy to say I taught him in 3rd grade religious ed. I tease him. I'd say, I know that's why you became a priest, Tom. Well, in 3rd grade religious ed, what we taught was we all have gifts. And we had various gifts through our whole curriculum that we had to highlight. And that you take those gifts and you go out in the community. So that's our joke.
Tell us about Easter services at Princess Anne Park.
Oh, well, as again, Father French was very creative, and he would do just about anything to get people together, whether it was over at the house, out in the yard, wherever. So we didn't have a building at the time in our early years, and so he wanted everybody to be included. So he rented a flatbed truck and had it stationed out at Princess Anne Park. And so we had a picnic, and they had prizes of little chickies that people would win, the kids would win, and just anything to get people out. But he had that flatbed truck, turned it into an altar, and celebrated on the top of that flatbed truck. And we're all out in the grounds for our liturgy on that Easter Sunday. He did that a couple of times. He was a gift, yeah.
Did that cover your questions that you? Let's see.
Do you have anything you want to share that we haven't asked you?
No, I mean, well, Sister Eileen, she was very, very interesting. Just a wonderful woman, very down to earth, very personable. She cared about the parish. She cared about the young people. I think just her whole demeanor and how she worked with people. She touched everybody. I mean, anybody that was here in the parish before, if you ask them anything about Sister Eileen, they will have something wonderful to say about her. And in fact, my husband is a native of Virginia, but he grew up in Utica, New York. And not long ago, a couple of years ago, we went up to Utica, and she planned her retirement in the sense that she knew that she had to take care of herself. She was living in Silver Springs in an apartment that was basically retired religious, but we would talk on the phone a lot. And she used to come down and visit me until she got older and she couldn't drive. And she said, I need to plan my later years because I don't want to be a burden on anybody. She had taken care of her mother. Her father had died. She'd taken care of her sisters. She had become her siblings' children's parent because she was just so involved with them. And so she planned her community is not big enough to have like a hospital or nursing home or anything for their order, but they were close to the Sisters of St. Joseph. So she's up in Albany and in a home that they have there. And we went back, my husband and I went back to Utica a couple of years ago. So we made a trip over to see her. And I was almost sort of sad in the sense because knowing how personable and outgoing she was, to see her in an environment now where she couldn't socialize, and get out, but she was still positive. And the nice thing was there was a fellow who had looked for someone to be friends with up there. He just liked to visit, and he wanted someone that needed friendship. He found her name, found her birthday that was close to his mother's. So he would go visit her every week. So he was there. I had sent her a Christmas card one time, and I didn't get an answer back, and she was always very good about doing that. And I just put on there, whoever reads this, please respond back to me and let me know that she's okay, or what the situation is. And he emailed me. He said, I saw your card and I'm emailing you to tell you I'm visiting her. And he sent me a picture of her right after that. So I do have a current picture of her right after we left. And I thought he sent me another one, but I've got one that I can give you of her.
So what years was she here?
Well, let's see, would we start in 72? I think she left in about 75, 76.
So she was here at the beginning.
Very beginning,
okay.
Yes. And I stayed on for a year after she left because I felt like there had to be some continuity. I mean, the religious ed program was pretty involved and, took a lot of work to keep it going. And Mary Ann Rohde, who was also a wonderful parish member, she and her husband, she stepped in and followed in Sister Eileen's path. So I stayed because Father French was leaving at the same time. Father French left here and went to Immaculate Conception. Sister Eileen ended up following him and going over to Immaculate Conception because they were quite a team and they could work together well. And so I stayed with Mary Ann for a year because I just felt like we really needed it, as a parish to keep it going.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you.
You covered a lot. Great job. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I was going to
talk
tell you
about when your office was in the church.
That's what I was going to tell you. I said Ascension is a great place. When it started and when it began and when we built the building, it doesn't look like your typical Catholic church or church. And Sister Eileen's and my office was over about where the reconciliation room is now, the chapel. They added, knocked out, but in that area. And when we would group and work on our classes, we had Carol and Maureen Iannucci and Weedy Armstrong and a bunch of women would come, and we took poster board and we had it all over the floor out there in the commons near by the restroom and by the entry. And we were on our hands and knees making poster boards, lining up the classes and getting them. Each class had a poster board that we could follow. And so there was a lot of activity, but sometimes she and I were in here by ourselves, and people would walk in and they would say, is this a Catholic church? And we said, yeah. I'm afraid that's my phone. And then she said, they would say, well, where is the church? And we'd have to open the door so they could see, our worship center. And so we would always tell them, it is different. It's a wonderful parish. We're a Vatican II parish. It's a little different from your surrounding parishes. So we always say, come and visit us, come to several masses, go to other parishes, check them out, make sure you're comfortable, and then, make your decision to come. But people just couldn't believe that this was a church or a Catholic church. We had some experiences of people walking in. I mean, some scary ones. Some people would wander in and not know where they were, and it was interesting. So, but we handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. In fact, again, Father French wanting people to take part and ownership in the building, the basic painting for all around was left to the parishioners. So we did a lot of the painting on the walls, the rooms, and I think upstairs still in the nursery, maybe they painted it over, but we had a woman that was an artist in that little nursery front upstairs. She painted like a nursery, like a tree and all kinds of things that would attract children. Yes, we did a lot. Yes, and the folding chairs, we Well, the DeLuca family had their daughter's wedding there. Did you? Okay, you know that.
That's a great story. Yeah.
Cooked everything in the kitchen. Oh.
And
Yeah.
somebody said we should do that for every wedding, and everybody else said
No.
Yeah.
Well, our two of our daughters were married here, and at that time, though, it was that was 35 years ago in May. 35 years ago in May, they were married here, and we just had the reception outside. But when people came in for the wedding, it was fine. You know, it just looked like the Commons. Friends of ours, dear friends of ours, they all set up tables, and I had flower arrangements and blah, blah, blah. And they set the whole place up. So when the wedding was out, everybody came out. We had a band right there in the front. And the band was playing Celebration Time. Yeah. I mean, and everybody was just going wild. And it was... Yeah. So there's been a lot of things that have gone on. I guess someone has told you about with the Jewish community that were here, right? Oh gosh, Rabbi Zoberman, he still praises Ascension and Father Dale. Yeah.
How about I've seen things about put on like plays, put on follies.
Oh yeah.
Was that all early?
Oh yes. Well, Weedy Armstrong, I'm sure you've heard about Weedy. Weedy was our Auntie Mame, and we had other people that were, you know, musically talented and inclined and everything. So again, Father French wanting people to be active, take part, be here, enjoy one another, spread everything. We had follies. We had, you know, well, like now we still have the Christmas music. But yes, they did a lot. Yeah. And Weedy, I guess, you know what? A lot of us that are still around and for years have said that in the very beginning days, those were our Camelot days. You know, because it was happy. Everybody was young. I mean, now all of us that were very young are very old. And so they were just good times. And we had a good pastor. And Sister Eileen, and even the priests that followed, you know, Bill, Bob Perkins, and all the assistants, Bill Dale. You know, now we have Father Daniel. So we've been blessed with the priests that we have had. Father Jim Park. You know, you just follow the path that God puts in front of you and celebrate it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. Hopefully.